After an incredible courtroom incident, a black woman's touching rise exposed their smirks in 12 seconds. Jasmine Thompson stood in the courtroom, her heart racing like a freight train barreling down the tracks. The tall figures of the jury towered over her, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. And there at the front, gleaming in his tailored suit with a smug grin like a cat who just caught a canary, was the prosecutor. He might as well have put the mask on himself, Jasmine thought bitterly, recalling how her father's character was being twisted like a pretzel before their very eyes. Today was not just about a verdict, this was the battleground for their dignity. The tension hung thick in the air, far more stifling than the stuffy courtroom itself. She felt the weight of every sideways glance. Would they see the man who taught her the value of hard work? Or would they only see a stereotype? Memories flashed before her. Her father, a hard-working man, always coming home with a smile on his face, no matter how tired he was from a long day. He had given her strength, and now she had to fight for him. The prosecutor's voice dripped with condescension as he began ripping apart her father's character. Jasmine clenched her fists as he spewed outright lies cloaked in intelligent jargon. Suddenly the dam inside her broke. She stood up, her voice breaking through the mockery. "My father is not a criminal." The room fell silent, every eye trained on her. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. She was scared, but this was a chance to speak her truth. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As whispers began to swirl in the courtroom, Jasmine felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Could she become the voice of reason in a sea of prejudice? That very incident turned her into a local sensation. The news flooded their small town of Maplewood, the woman fighting against the odds, trying to redeem her father. But with that newfound attention came pressure. Family dinners devolved into debates, her mother wary of stirring the pot further while her younger brother looked up to her defiance yet feared the fallout. Days turned into sleepless nights. And just when Jasmine began to feel a swell of support from her community, a witness appeared, pulling the rug from under her newly found strength. The looming shadows of doubt crept back in. Had her efforts been in vain? This was her family's legacy on the line. As the court sessions unfurled, Jasmine's determination only grew. She faced her father's accusers, hoping desperately to unearth truths that could flip the script. The room was electric. Every heartbeat was a countdown to the moment of truth. She could hear her own pulse thrumming in her ears as she glanced at the jury, who remained torn between the ingrained stereotypes and the flickering hope of justice. Jasmine closed her eyes momentarily, drawing strength from her father's resilience. Would she be able to unearth the truth before the gavel struck? The answer loomed large, her father's fate teetering on the edge. With a steady breath she stepped forward, ready to confront the ghosts of prejudice head-on. The air crackled with anticipation, leaving the room in suspense. Would justice finally prevail, or would silence crush her dreams? The judge's gavel struck sharply, like thunder echoing across the small town. "Order," he commanded. As everyone settled down, Jasmine felt the weight of the moment intensify. Looking at the witness, the supposedly key figure in the argument against her father, she realized she had to stay focused. This was her opportunity, the slender chance to dismantle the lie that had been constructed piece by piece. The witness, a man with weary eyes and greasy hair, fidgeted in the chair under the intensity of Jasmine's gaze. She threw out a measured question, each word heavy with purpose. "Can you tell this courtroom exactly what you saw? Every detail matters." He hesitated, glancing sideways as if checking for an escape route. I saw him there," he finally stammered, pointing a nervous finger. "He was just standing. Didn't he look right?" "Didn't he look right?" Jasmine echoed, incredulous. "What does that even mean?" "This isn't a feeling. It's about what you saw. Did he have a weapon? Did he threaten you?" Each question surged like a tidal wave, crashing against the doubts the jury harbored. The man shifted uncomfortably. Jasmine's heart raced as she pressed on, using his indecision. Isn't it true you didn't even speak to my father? You only saw him from a distance? The truth loomed above, invisible yet potent, and Jasmine felt the collapsing weight of the false narrative hanging thinly in the air. With every denial from the witness, she could feel the jury's mounting skepticism. Faces once filled with uncertainty now began to shift slightly, questioning what they thought they knew. It was a small crack, but enough for her to build upon. You can't condemn a man based on perception alone. That is injustice. Whispers engulfed the courtroom again. Jasmine's conviction was palpable now. It wrapped around her like a shield. She glanced at her mother, who sat gripping her younger brother's hand tightly, worry etched on her face. Clearly Jasmine's bravery, her fight for truth, was blooming hope but also fear. Feeling emboldened, she turned back toward the jury. You have a choice to make. It's not just about my father. It's about what this community stands for. Will you allow prejudice to dictate the outcome? Or will you see the man we all know? The room fell still, absorbing her impassioned plea. The prosecutor attempted to interject, but Jasmine cut him off with a fierce look, her expression daring him to challenge her right to speak. You can keep talking about facts, but facts aren't truth. How is justice served when we ignore what's real? It was then the judge's voice cut through the tension. Enough, he declared, signaling a brief recess. Jasmine's mind buzzed, a wild mixture of anxiety and excitement. How could she maintain this momentum? As the room emptied, Jasmine stood alone, grappling with her emotions. Had she done enough? Could she really change the tide in her family's favor? Her thoughts raced, but the deepest urge in her heart remained the same. The desire for her father's name to be cleared. The clock was ticking, and she felt the pressure rev up again. Just as she pondered her next move, a blurry figure caught her eye as it approached, a woman with an air of certainty that seemed so familiar. With each step closer, Jasmine's pulse quickened. Who was this woman, and what secret did she hold? The moment felt electric, but uncertainty clawed at Jasmine's gut. Could this encounter tip the scales one last time? Or would it plunge her deeper into turmoil? Jasmine's heart raced as the woman drew closer, her features coming into focus. It was Ms. Thompson, a long-standing family friend. Her strong presence felt like an anchor amidst the swirling chaos. The courtroom echoed with the distant murmur of frustrated whispers, but all Jasmine could think about was the intensity in Ms. Thompson's eyes. Something told her that this wasn't just a casual visit. Jasmine, Ms. Thompson started softly, her voice a soothing balm against the tension. We need to talk. I have something important to share. Jasmine nodded, her mind ablaze with questions. Now, in here, she murmured, glancing nervously at the gathering crowd as people filled the seats again. Every seat in the courtroom held eyes full of suspicion. Yet here stood Ms. Thompson, radiating unwavering confidence. Yes, now, Ms. Thompson insisted, though she lowered her voice. It's critical for your father's case. At that moment, a ripple of anticipation swept through Jasmine. What do you know? Her voice trembled, a mix of anxiety and hope. The pieces of her father's defense scattered in her mind, begging for clarity. Ms. Thompson pulled Jasmine aside, away from prying ears. Do you remember the night your father was arrested? I saw something that could change everything. Her words were calm, but they carried a weight Jasmine could feel pressing against her chest. What did you see? Jasmine barely breathed, as if the answer could shatter her fragile composure. There were bystanders near the scene. They were talking about who they believed was at fault. Ms. Thompson hesitated for a beat, gauging Jasmine's reaction. One of them thought your father was innocent and was willing to testify. Jasmine's heart soared. Hope ignited within her. Really? Where are they? Can we get them here? Who are they? The momentum shifted suddenly, a glimmer within the overwhelming darkness she had been submerged in. Ms. Thompson placed a firm hand on Jasmine's shoulder, grounding her as she spoke. We must tread carefully. They're scared just like everyone else. They've seen how quickly judgment can fall, and they don't have much faith in the system. Frustrated, Jasmine clenched her fists, trying to absorb the implications of this revelation. So what do? We can't let my father go down for something he didn't do. First we need proof. Something that shows the truth, not just what people want to believe. Ms. Thompson's eyes locked onto Jasmine's with a fierce intensity. But it will take courage, Jasmine. You have to stand up and embrace what this community truly is, those who believe in forgiveness and empathy. Jasmine nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. You're right. We can't let fear win. As they both took a deep breath, returning to the courtroom, Jasmine felt the shift within herself. She wasn't just a daughter anymore. She was a warrior, choosing to stand up not only for her father but for every person who felt powerless. When the courtroom doors swung open again, Jasmine's heartbeat pounded in unison with the whispers of uncertainty that filled the air. Every gaze, every sneer from the crowd only fueled her determination. She noticed the jurors, some now leaning forward, others furrowing their brows in contemplation. With the weight of Ms. Thompson's words echoing in her soul, Jasmine rose, ready to face this challenge head-on. I won't let this community build its walls of prejudice any longer, she proclaimed, surprising even herself with the fire in her voice. But as she spoke, a shadow moved in the corner of the room. A figure she'd never seen before slipped into the back. Curious, Jasmine wondered whether this person was a friend or a foe. Did they know something? Were they dangerous or were they the answer she sought? The atmosphere thickened with tension as she prepared to dive deeper into the truth that lay ahead. The courtroom fell silent. All eyes swung toward the shadowy figure lingering near the back wall. Jasmine could feel her heart racing, a mix of fear and curiosity swelling inside her. Who was this person? Did they hold the key to the evidence her father needed? Miss Thompson leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Keep your focus, Jasmine. We can't lose momentum. Jasmine nodded, grounding herself. She couldn't afford to be distracted now. This was her moment. She could feel it deep in her bones. The air crackled with a tension that seemed to bind together all the whispers, all the doubts. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Jasmine began again, her voice steady and firm. I stand before you fighting against not just accusations, but the fear that poisons our community. My father deserves a fair chance, a chance to be heard. We all deserve to be treated with dignity. As she spoke, her eyes strayed back to the figure. They remained still, an enigma wrapped in the dimness of the courtroom. Jasmine's heart urged her on, convincing her that this stranger might be pivotal to her father's case. She took a step forward. And I know there are people out there who witnessed that night, people who are scared. But we cannot let fear silence us. Her words hung in the air, reverberating through the courtroom. It was seldom that a voice like hers, a voice that screamed for justice, rose so confidently within these walls. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Faces shifted, glancing at one another, evaluating Jasmine's swelling conviction. Behind her, Ms. Thompson nodded, a flicker of pride in her expression. We have a responsibility to seek the truth, Jasmine continued, to strive for understanding and compassion. And if anyone here has doubt or fear of repercussions, know this. We will stand together. We will find the truth. With every word, Jasmine felt the weight of her family, her father, their community on her shoulders, but it was no longer a burden. It was purpose. The mysterious figure began to shift, moving toward the aisle, catching Jasmine's full attention. The room seemed to still, every breath suspended, as if caught in a moment suspended in time. Felt like a sign. Jasmine's breath hitched as the stranger stepped forward, revealing themselves to the growing crowd. A familiar face emerged, one she hadn't seen in years. It was Dan, her childhood friend, someone whose own life had been touched deeply by similar injustices. His presence ignited a new flame of recognition within Jasmine. Dan, she exclaimed, her heart pounding. You were there that night. A nod, grim yet reassuring, came from Dan. I didn't know how to step forward, he began, but as Jasmine caught sight of the crowd's shifting energy, she willed him to keep going. Ms. Thompson's eyes sparkled with hope. This is what we need, Jasmine. A voice willing to break the silence. Dan took a deep breath and stepped fully into the spotlight, the tension in the room giving way to a sense of urgency and resolve. I saw everything, he said, his voice strong. Your father wasn't responsible. I'm willing to testify. Jasmine felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. It was a monumental step, but still the weight of uncertainty loomed overhead. Would Dan's testimony change the course of this case? Now every whisper in the room faded away, the tension palpable, and Jasmine realized they had only scratched the surface. What else would emerge from the shadows? Who else might be waiting to align with justice? As she took a breath, The courtroom felt like it was holding its collective breath, ready to unravel the truths that could reshape everything. What more was out there? And who else might be willing to stand with them against fear? Jasmine's pulse quickened. She knew they were on the brink of something monumental. The truth was alive in this room, ready to be unveiled. Dan's voice resonated through the room, drawing every eye toward him. In that moment he transformed from a shadowy figure into a beacon of hope. Jasmine willed the jury to see him not just as her friend, but as someone who could shatter the chains of injustice that bound her father. Dan, what did you see? Jasmine urged, stepping closer, her heart racing with anticipation. The air was thick with expectation as Dan looked out at the jury. I saw the whole thing, he began, his gaze steady. It was chaos, but trust me, your father didn't do it. He was trying to help. Gasps echoed through the audience. Jasmine felt the weight of his words settle into the hearts of the people watching. Could this truly be the turning point? But fear held me back for so long, Dan continued, his voice trembling slightly. I was scared. I lost friends. I saw what they did to all of us. But now, after seeing you stand up today, I can't stay silent anymore. Jasmine felt a swell of pride mixed with compassion. She wasn't just an advocate for her father anymore. She was standing with Dan, confronting their shared fears. If they could stand together, perhaps more would be inspired to speak out. Thank you, Dan. It takes tremendous courage to come forward like this, Jasmine said, her voice filled with sincerity. Around them, murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. We need to hear everything you witnessed. This community needs to heal, and it starts with the truth. Dan nodded, his expression hardening with resolve. I will tell you everything. That night things got out of hand. But your father was trying to separate people, not escalate the violence. Jasmine watched as the jury leaned in, eager for more. Each word Dan spoke seemed to light a fire in the hearts of those listening. They could feel the fog of fear beginning to dissipate, replaced by the clarity of truth. Miss Thompson made her way to Dan's side. We appreciate your bravery, she said, her voice steady. Can you describe what you witnessed in detail? As Dan recounted his story, images played in Jasmine's mind. The chaos, the threats, the moment her father was dragged into the turmoil. She had always felt the injustice, but to hear it now spoken openly in the air around them made it all the more real. Each detail Dan provided seemed to weave into a tapestry of undeniable truth, growing more vivid with each passing moment. Jasmine could see the jury shifting, their expressions shifting from skepticism to empathy. But just as the atmosphere appeared to shift radically in their favor, a shift of another kind emerged. Jasmine's heart sank as she noticed a figure in the back, an intimidating presence, arms crossed and jaw set. Was it someone who opposed her father's cause? Did they have power here? Jasmine's focus broke momentarily as the figure caught her gaze. Something in their eyes, the arrogance, the determination, made her skin crawl. Who were they, and what ripples could they send through this fragile moment of hope? She quickly returned her attention to Dan, determined to hold on to the momentum. We are thankful for your testimony, Dan. But we need more than just words. We need others to stand with us. Jasmine scanned the room, hoping to find allies, but her search was cut short by the eerie silence as the figure in the back stepped forward. Suddenly, the atmosphere thickened with tension. Each heartbeat echoed through Jasmine's ears as the heavy reality settled in. Enough of this, the figure said, disrupting the hopeful air that surrounded them. You think truth will save him? Every breath seemed caught in a vice as Jasmine felt the weight of the crowd's eyes upon her once more. The pulse of urgency drummed in her ears. What would happen next? Would they rally around them, or would fear set them back once more? Jasmine's heart raced. She knew they were at a crossroads, one that could redefine everything. Would they have enough courage to push through, to challenge those who tried to silence them? Jolt of uncertainty coursed through her. What was lurking in that moment? And how far would she have to go to protect her father and fight for justice? Did they truly have it in them to face the storm now brewing against them? The courtroom buzzed with anxious whispers, anticipation heavy in the air. Would they endure the heat as the next chapter unfolded? Would Jasmine find the courage she needed when it mattered most? The figure's voice, harsh and cutting, hung in the air like an oppressive cloud. Jasmine's stomach twisted, sensing the challenge not only to her father but to everything she had fought for. In that instant, the courtroom felt smaller, the walls closing in as whispers grew louder, a mix of doubt and discomfort. Do you really think your little story is enough? The figure continued, a smirk playing on their lips. The truth? It won't matter if there's no one willing to believe it. The stakes are too high for them. Jasmine clenched her fists, feeling the tide of fear beginning to wash over her. It wasn't just a trial for her father anymore. It felt like a trial of her soul. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. It's not just a story. It's the truth that needs to be heard. She could feel all the eyes in the room shift from Dan to her, assessing. Jasmine's heart hammered as she realized the responsibility resting squarely on her shoulders. The moment required strength, and she was determined to rise to it. This community deserves to know what's real. But she also needed to be careful. Every word she spoke could be weaponized against her, and the stakes were dangerously high. The figure remained rooted, their presence like a looming shadow, challenging her every move. Dan stepped forward, bolstered by Jasmine's spirit. I was there. I saw it. You're manipulating this crowd. Don't let fear silence us. His voice rang through the courtroom, startled gasps following. The tension crackled. Jasmine saw others begin to shift in their seats. A few had even whispered their support. Could it be? Were they waking up from their days of inaction? Don't you see? Jasmine said, turning toward the audience, her voice steadier now. This isn't just about my dad. It's about all of us. It's about standing together and confronting our fears. It's about justice. If we speak out, if we stand united, we can change the narrative. The energy in the room shifted. Jasmine could see small nods from various jurors, faces once shrouded in doubt now beginning to soften. Are you really going to let yourselves be intimidated? She pressed, desperation edging her words. We all live here. We've seen injustice. We've experienced it ourselves. Don't let fear paralyze you. But the figure wasn't swayed. You think they'll listen? You really believe your community cares? The disbelief dripped from their tone, and Jasmine could feel her heart racing again. Urgency flooding through her. Yes, she shouted, surprising even herself. They care. And they deserve to know the truth you're desperately trying to quell. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Jasmine's spirit soared. She felt a sense of solidarity forming. People were willing to listen. With that realization, her voice softened, fiery yet sincere, piercing through the thick atmosphere. If we can confront this moment together, we can confront anything. The truth matters, and it's stronger than fear. As she finished her plea, the figure recoiled, the smirk faltering for just a moment. Jasmine took in the collective energy of the room. There was a chance now, a glimmer of hope hanging in the balance, but suddenly, there was movement at the back of the courtroom. A woman stood, her expression fierce as she took a step forward. Jasmine's heart raced. Who was she? An ally, perhaps? More importantly, would she stand with them in this fight? The woman's voice cut through the lingering tension. You're wrong. We care, and we're tired of being silenced. Enough is enough. Jasmine watched, her pulse quickening as others began to stand. Were they really joining the fight? Would this sea of faces become a wave of change? The figure in the back glared, veins bulging with frustration. Jasmine's dread mingled with exhilaration. This was the moment. Would they come together to push through the fear and doubt? Would they reclaim their voices and their strength? Questions surged in her mind, but with the energy of the crowd transforming around her, she felt a surge of possibility. Together they could defy the odds. But as the crowd began to shift, would the figure's influence push everyone back into silence? Jasmine could only hold her breath and hope. The next moment would be crucial. Would they rise together? Or would fear snatch away this chance for truth? The woman at the back, who had suddenly emerged as a beacon of defiance, stood firm. Her eyes glimmered with determination, reflecting the heartfelt anger that had built within her over the years. The atmosphere was electric. Those seated in the courtroom were shifting again, their gazes drawn to this new force. I've lived with this injustice for too long, the woman declared, her voice echoing through the cavernous room. We've all noticed the lies, the manipulation, and the shrugging of shoulders when we cry out for help. Today is our day to be heard. As her words flowed, a ripple of realization spread. It was as if a spell had been broken. People began to rise from their seats one by one. Jasmine's heart raced. a mix of fear and exhilaration. Could this really be happening? What's your name? Jasmine called out, the need for connection pulling at her. The woman turned, a small smile breaking through her fierce exterior. My name is Lena. I'm here because we're more than just spectators in this fight. Lena's words ignited a spark in the crowd. Others began to echo her sentiments, their voices rising to fill the gaps Lena had created. Jasmine felt a rush of hope, watching faces transform as courage pooled around them. This moment was sacred. People were shedding layers of hesitation with every voice that joined in. The figure at the back grew more incensed, their confidence visibly dwindling. Yet they stepped forward, attempting to reassert dominance. You really think this display of rebellion matters? You think people will listen to you? But Jasmine wasn't deterred. Listen to us. We are tired of being cast aside. She shouted, her voice blending with Lena's and the chorus of supporters. The crowd rallied, chanting for justice and truth. Emotions poured out. Remembrance of pain, stories of injustice. It was a tidal wave of shared experiences. Jasmine caught glimpses of old friends and neighbors, faces illuminated with newfound determination and strength. They were not just witnesses. They were part of a collective entity ready to reclaim their narrative. Stand together, Lena urged. Not just today, not just for one trial, but for the future. Let this be the beginning of our fight. Slowly, whispers turned into cheers. The energy was palpable, a wave crashing against the shores of fear. As excitement built, a few jurors rose to their feet, visibly moved. Their resolve solidified the momentum. Then the courtroom doors swung open with a loud creak, drawing everyone's attention. A group of community members entered, their presence like a gust of wind fanning the flames of hope. Jasmine's eyes widened. Each person who stepped through the threshold seemed to carry a spark of purpose, and with them came the sense that change was no longer just an abstract wish. It was within reach. But as the momentum surged, the figure's countenance twisted with mounting fury. You fools! Do you think standing in defiance will change the truth? They shouted, their voice now tinged with desperation. You're risking everything for a fantasy. Better to risk for a fantasy than live in fear of a bitter reality. Jasmine shot back, her heart pounding faster in her chest. Tension hung heavily in the air as those gathered prepared to respond, dancing on the edge of a revolution. People were ready to move beyond mere words, eager for action. The figure's threats had bounced off Lena, Jasmine, and the rest, fueling their resolve to stand firm. To send a clear message this time, silence would not win. Outside the courtroom, a crowd was gathering, drawn by the rising voices within. Jasmine felt a shift in the energy building to a fever pitch. What would happen when the people outside realized the fire ablaze within? Would they join the chorus in solidarity, embracing the fight for justice? Or would they remain mere observers, leaving Jasmine and the community to bear this pivotal moment alone? The tension crackled as Jasmine looked to the figure, ready for the inevitable clash, and wondered what would break first, their fear or their resolve. Lena stood strong, her fists clenched at her sides. The cacophony of voices surged around her, fueling her fervor. Jasmine caught glimpses of her fellow community members pulling together, their arms raised high, faces flushed with determination. The energy in the room was pulsating. It felt alive, electric. But the man before them, with his threatening demeanor, had not yet folded. Do you even understand what you're risking? He barked, the desperation evident in the staccato of his words. You think a few chants can change the systems in place? You think the world cares what you feel? Right now we matter. Lena countered, her voice a rallying cry that seemed to reach every corner of the room and beyond. This moment is what matters. When we stand up, we are already winning. The rows of onlookers shifted again, caught up in the passion and urgency of the moment. They began to echo Lena's words, a gentle but growing roar of approval sweeping through the ranks. Jasmine felt warmth spread through her chest, igniting a flicker of courage deep within her. Outside the courtroom, shadows loomed close, absorbed in the unfolding drama. The murmurs of the new crowd melded with the shouts from within, creating a swirling storm of emotion. People gathered in anticipation, drawn by the rising chorus of justice. What are they saying? One voice called out and another responded, come on, let us find out. Jasmine couldn't help but glance back at the door, her heart racing at the thought of what might happen if they joined the fight. Would they push back against the status quo? Would they dare to stand for those who couldn't? The figure, aware of the growing attention outside, turned ghostly pale. Their authority was crumbling, doubt etched into their features. This is madness. They spat, their voice cracking under the strain. You think people will defend your cries when it was you who failed to comply? Comply to what? Lena shouted back, stepping forward, invincible. To oppression? To silence? We reject that. There's power in our truth. As if on cue, the crowd erupted into a chant, a rhythmic pulse that resonated in the very walls. Justice! Justice! They called out, sending shivers down Jasmine's spine. In that moment, she felt more connected to those around her than ever before. They were family bound by shared struggle and hope. Suddenly, a figure broke through the crowd near the back, lifting a megaphone high. It was Marcus, a local activist known for his fierce passion and unwavering resolve. His presence instantly electrified the atmosphere. Together we can transform this indifference. He shouted. We will not back down. Jasmine's heart swelled. This was the connection she had longed for, a united front against the injustices they had faced for far too long. The fear that had once frozen her now fueled her resolve. As the figures outside pressed against the glass, eyes wide with awe, Jasmine turned to Lena and Marcus. We could really do this. We could change everything. Lena nodded, determination etched into her brow. Yes, but we must hold the line. We can't show weakness now. The figure at the front of the courtroom glared. A mix of disdain and fear ripped across their face. You think this is winning, don't you? Just wait. You'll see how wrong you are. Jasmine stood her ground, heart racing, a fierce spark igniting in her. But what would happen next? Would they push through this moment and drive forward? Or was this merely the beginning of a conflict that would shape their lives forever? Lena took a breath, grounding herself in the energy that flowed around her. The shouts from the crowd outside melded with her heartbeat, creating a rhythm she felt in her very bones. We will not back down, echoed through her mind like a mantra. Looking over at Marcus, she saw his unwavering gaze, igniting the spark within her even further. The figure before them faltered, and Lena seized the moment. You may think you're in control, but look around. We are the voices you want to silence. We are the ones who refuse to be ignored. Her words struck deep, charging the crowd with renewed vigor. They echoed back the hallowed truth. They were a force. Jasmine couldn't believe the warmth blooming inside her. Could it really be courage? Could she really be part of something bigger than herself? Movement caught her eye. A woman near the front, shoulders back, dignity radiating like sunlight, stood tall. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Jasmine felt compelled to reach out to her, but then fear gripped her again. What would happen if they lost? What if all this energy, all this hope simply dissolved? But then she glanced at Lena. The strength she saw in her eyes sparked determination in Jasmine. There was a chance that fear could be transformed into something greater. Young and old alike had gathered, each face a testament to their collective pain, their fight. What do you want? The figure at the front spat, voice laced with hostility. To stir up chaos? This is chaos. Lena shouted. This is our freedom. We are united, and we've had enough of being pushed aside. At that moment, a series of loud knocks resounded on the courtroom door. The audience flinched momentarily, tension crackling in the air like static electricity. Slowly, the door creaked open to reveal weary faces peering inside. The crowd from outside spilling in. There was a mix of resolve and uncertainty. They weren't just onlookers anymore. Jasmine felt a rush. The energy shifted. From small pockets of support, it seemed their defiance was now a wave crashing upon the shores of apathy. The figure's confidence shattered. You think this makes a difference? You'll be met with consequences. The chant grew, swelling, enveloping the space around them. Justice! 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 It boomed like thunder, bouncing off the walls, filling every crack and crevice. They had been ignited, transformed into something unstoppable, working in unison for the first time. Amidst the roar, Jasmine caught Lena's eye again. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore, she whispered, as if fearing the weight of the truth. We're fighting for everyone. Lena nodded with fierce conviction. Yes, this is our revolution. But we have to guide it. She turned to where Marcus stood, still holding his megaphone. The fire in his eyes told Jasmine everything she needed to know. He was ready to lead them into whatever storm lay ahead. But when they turned back to the figure at the front, that fear and disdain morphed into something darker, something almost desperate. You think you have power. But this will end badly for you. Marcus raised his voice, sounding more resolute than ever. We refuse to be silenced. We're here to make change, to dismantle the systems that oppress us. You can't threaten us into submission. Silence followed, a tenuous pause, as Jasmine's heart raced with a blend of fear and exhilaration. Their moment was teetering. What if they failed? What if everything they had done was in vain? However, the roar of the crowd seemed to answer her unspoken fears. It surged around her, a protective barrier forging from shared strength. The fear evaporated into adrenaline. She could feel at the first stirrings of hope, a flame flickering defiantly against the darkness ahead. Deep down, she knew the upcoming choices they made could either sink or lift them higher than they had ever thought possible. Let us make them hear us, Jasmine shouted, raising her own voice to join the sea of humanity around her. And as the murmurs began to shift again, she realized that this was only the beginning. They would push forward together. But would they penetrate deep enough to shatter the defenses of the ones in power? The true battle awaited just beyond this threshold. The tension in the courtroom hung in the air like a thick fog, and Jasmine could feel the eyes of the crowd upon her. Her heart thundered, each beat echoing the urgency of the situation. They stood at a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Together, she bellowed, her voice piercing through the chatter. Together, we are unstoppable. The murmurs turned into rambunctious cheers, voices intertwining and rising into a singular chorus. Lena, Marcus, and the growing crowd surged forward, infused by an energy that was palpable. Fear faded. Courage blossomed. Jasmine felt its warmth envelop her. All that fear, all that doubt. It has brought us to this moment. Lena exclaimed, with fierce passion radiating from her eyes. Let us reshape our truth. It's time to stand up for one another. The figure at the front of the courtroom, once so menacing, faltered as the choir of voices grew louder and more determined. This isn't about the past. It's about our future. Jasmine shouted, the weight of her father's legacy filling every syllable. Every life scanned by prejudice. Every soul silenced by fear. Today we break those chains. Dan stepped up next to her, emboldened by the family of supporters surrounding them. Your father stood for what's right. We owe it to him to finish this. He faced the jurors and added, your choice can create ripples that extend far beyond this room. His words took root, fanning the flames of hope. The jurors shifted, some moving closer, visibly affected by the unity before them. Whispers of understanding began to spread among them. Don't you see? Marcus had found his voice again, the megaphone amplifying his fervor to the ceiling. The truth isn't just a distant dream, it's our reality waiting to be seized. And the only barriers standing in our way are the lies we've been fed. As the crowd roared in agreement, Jasmine caught Ms. Thompson's eye, who stood watching with pride, her heart swelling for the daughter she'd always believed in. With the energy reverberating through the room, Jasmine felt the unstoppable tide of change surging forward. The imposing figure pivoted slightly, shifting the weight of their own doubt. You're making a mistake, they hissed, trying to regain composure. This is dangerous. Dangerous? Lena shot back. What's truly dangerous is remaining silent while others suffer. We are the risk-takers. We will ensure that future generations learn from our fight. Jasmine nodded fiercely, feeling the rippling strength around her. Justice Eddie waiting for an invitation. This moment belongs to us. She extended her hand to those rallied around her. One by one, individuals stepped forward, a neighbor, a former schoolteacher, people Jasmine had known her whole life, until there was a line of steadfast allies standing proudly, united. Each face shone with determination, the weight of their shared struggles culminating into a single purpose. As the air thickened with anticipation, the jurors glanced at one another, absorbing the undeniable impact of this show of community. It was more than a testimonial. This was history in the making. Today we choose to embrace our strength, Jasmine declared, her voice steady and bold. What will your choice be? Will you stand with us? And just like that, an electric current ran through the room. One juror stood, then another, until they too formed a united front. A victory of collective voices reverberated off the walls, cascading hope throughout the courtroom. The figure at the front erupted with frustration but was met with mounting applause. The overwhelming roar from outside echoed back into the courtroom like a symphony. Faces from the community filled the hall, consultants, laborers, sons and daughters all clamoring to support Jasmine and her case. With that, a gavel banged down, slicing through the clamor. "Order!" the judge called, but his voice was softer, almost uncertain against the wave of emotion surging through the room. And then, against all odds, the judge's eyes softened. He looked at Jasmine not as a mere girl in distress, but as a leader in her own right. "I've seen enough. Enough of the truth being hidden." Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. Was this the moment they dreamt of? Her heart raced wildly. "Will you?" she began, her words choking on emotions. "Will you stand with us for justice?" The judge nodded, setting the wheels in motion. He turned toward the jury members, their expressions transformed by the roar of community strength. "We now acknowledge the importance of voices, all voices. Together. Not just in this trial but moving forward." Tears brushed against her cheeks as Jasmine felt the radiant warmth seep into her heart. The darkness that had loomed overhead began to lift, replaced by a brilliance that promised a brighter tomorrow. One that her father would be proud of. One by one the jurors stood. "We will resolve to acknowledge not just the evidence, but the strength of truth brought forth by the community." They joined hands with those around them, forming a united front that spoke louder than any verdict ever could. The courtroom erupted again, the tide now irreversible. As the applause thundered, Jasmine closed her eyes, surrendering to the moment. Hope washed over her. A chance to rewrite her father's legacy, not only for him but for everyone who felt unseen. "Hope united can change everything," she whispered. And it did. Now, for each of you who resonate with this story, I urge you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand that your support is vital. This is your moment to shine.